Right now, police are searching for 3 individuals accused of opening fire on a Savannah rapper, killing one member of his entourage. The incident unfolded in Los Angeles, and shockingly, cameras managed to capture the aftermath on tape. The aftermath is chilling. This wild footage shows Quando Rondo's homie being dragged out of a car. You can see Quando completely losing it, and honestly, who wouldn't? The ops had just taken out his best friend. But back then, nobody knew for certain who was responsible. Now, however, the truth is finally coming to light.
People still say
Wait until you see this video where DK straight up admits to it. You won't believe this shocking footage of Chu's homie. On August 19, 2022, 5 masked men rolled up on Quando Rondo and his homie Lil Durk, opening fire. Quando was parked at a gas station, and as the shots rang out, he ducked down, desperately trying to shield himself from the bullets. By some miracle, Quando managed to escape unharmed. However, his cousin and close friend, LPAB, wasn't so fortunate. As you can imagine, Quando was completely traumatized by the incident, and the footage of the aftermath is nothing short of shocking. What's believed to be CCTV footage shows the shooting, followed by Quando's raw reaction, and it's devastating. You can clearly see Quando in utter confusion, not fully processing what's happening. But once the police pulled his cousin's body out of the car, he completely freaked out. No, no, no. His screams echoed the pain of the moment. Although Quando survived, he was visibly shaken. In the video, his arms flail uncontrollably, his body language revealing sheer distress. His cousin, widely known as LPAB, tragically lost his life simply for being with Quando that night. What makes this shooting even more shocking is that PAB was due to appear in court for serious charges. But since he was killed, he never made it to trial. He was murdered just a week before facing charges for racketeering. In other words, a RICO case, and we all know how severe those are. LPAB, also known as Bandit Pablo, was infamous throughout Georgia. His original charges dated back to 2019, when he and 10 accomplices allegedly went on a massive crime spree, wreaking havoc across the state. Their alleged crimes included burglary, auto theft, and carjackings, and that was only scratching the surface. Clearly, Quando Rondo surrounded himself with controversial company. But what does all of this have to do with Lil Durk? Well, everything. For the longest time, nobody really knew why PAB and Quando were targeted. But since Durk's arrest, the picture is becoming clearer. Sure, PAB had plenty of enemies, but evidence suggests his brutal execution had less to do with his past crimes and everything to do with his association with Quando Rondo. Just recently, federal agents swooped in and arrested 5 men from Chicago believed to be responsible for the hit. They are being charged with conspiracy to commit murder and retaliation for King Von's death. Which raises a massive question. Why did it take nearly 2 years for the police to make any arrests? Let's break down what we know from the indictment. According to court documents, a group of Chicago gang members traveled to Los Angeles specifically to assassinate Quando Rondo. The gang in question? OTF, the same name as Durk's music collective. For years, Durk has denied that OTF is a gang, but authorities remain unconvinced. It doesn't help that nearly all of his songs reference gang activity. The indictment alleges that these OTF members booked flights from Chicago to LA using a credit card linked to one of their own. They had received intel on Quando's location and decided to act. A member known as Grant allegedly oversaw the operation, even booking a separate private flight from Miami to California. Reports claim that Grant organized the vehicles, weapons, and even fake license plates the gang used to carry out the hit. And after the job? The crew supposedly went to a nearby burger joint to discuss payment, before casually flying back to Chicago as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Quando was left mourning his cousin's death, while the world speculated endlessly about who was really behind it. At first, most assumed it was connected to King Von's murder. But nobody knew for sure, until now. They might have thought they got away with it, but the feds were quietly building their case, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What's even more interesting is that Lil Durk was just about to release a brand new album, but now it's been pushed back to the end of November. Maybe he believes he'll be free by then, but from what we've uncovered, that's pure wishful thinking. Authorities reportedly have plenty of evidence against Durk, and even worse, word is they've got an informant, someone very close to him, who snitched long before this incident. The irony? Durk's future had been looking bright. His criminal record had just been wiped clean, he had an album ready to drop, and he'd recently been honored with the key to Chicago. He was on top of the world. And since the shooting was from 2 years ago, he probably thought he'd beaten the system. Yet now, as shocking as it may sound to some, accusations that he was the mastermind behind it don't seem that surprising. People have been pointing fingers at him for years. The only difference? The police finally took their time to stitch together a case. Proof that it was Lil Durk and his crew behind LPAB's murder 2 years ago began surfacing online. The internet went ablaze, with debates, speculation, and countless theories about who was really behind the attempt on Quando Rondo's life. But one Reddit user, playing detective, pieced together what allegedly happened. In fact, this internet sleuth practically did the cops' work for them. The first piece of evidence? A story posted by Quando himself in 2022. At first glance, it might not look like much, but to the trained eye, it reveals some intriguing details. In the post, Quando wrote, "I'm my own man. I laid my flag down. I'm not NH. Y'all ain't going to ride for real. There's no sense of me being a part of y'all __." What was he talking about? His affiliation with the Crips. That's right, Quando was a known member of one of America's most notorious gangs, which explains why he was always decked out in blue. More specifically, he was tied to the LA branch known as the Neighborhood Rolling 60s, the same gang the late rapper Nipsey Hussle belonged to. Now, why does this matter? Because Rondo claimed his gang refused to help him, and even more damning, that they may have set him up. Following that Instagram post, Rondo sent shockwaves through the streets by doing the unthinkable, trying to walk away. But here's the thing, you don't just leave the Crips. Tradition says you get jumped out, meaning you're brutally beaten by the crew until you've officially paid your exit fee. Quando refused. And the gang? They weren't happy. Some members publicly called him out. Jay Stone posted, "You can't drop your flag and say you not NH no more. __. Go to the hood and get you put off. Don't cry now. We lose homies all the time. Not everybody going to ride." He was a goofy internet banger anyway. Brutal words, but that was the sentiment. The now-deceased rapper Fio also chimed in, branding Quando a coward. He said, "Dog, homeboy died in Cali, and he trying to squash beef and throw his flag in? Too late for that, nephew." On the surface, these posts may seem unrelated to PAB's death. But when you connect the dots, things look very different. The Crenshaw area of LA is home to a faction of the Rolling 60s called the Score Gang. And check this, a story posted from one of their IG pages allegedly shows Durk clicking up with them. Why does that matter? Because it was common knowledge that Quando was an enemy of Durk. So why would the Rolling 60s align with Durk? Suddenly, it starts to make sense why Quando tried to drop his flag. And then right on cue, Durk released a song called AHA. In it he raps the line, "I can have your homie set you up, his ass a middleman." To fans, it was just another bar. But to those connecting the dots, it looked like a confession wrapped in a melody. In the track Aha he spits the line, "I can have your homie set you up, his ass a middleman," which many fans linked to Quando Rondo. Then check this out, an IG story from an OTF member appears to show they knew about LPAB getting shot in the head even before the public did. There's a mountain of content implicating Lil Durk and OTF in the hit, but the most damning moment came when Lil Durk sat down with academics, and what he said then, at the time, didn't raise eyebrows the way it does now. After Lil Durk's arrest, that interview resurfaced and everyone started piecing things together. When academics asked Lil Durk about the Slide for Vaughn campaign, basically the internet trolling questioning whether he'd avenge his fallen friend, Lil Durk replied oddly, something like, "Tried by the Slide for Vaughn. I don't know if people don't say, they used to say it, but they also mention a song. They be like they be seen SL for Vaughn. I think they trolling me, yeah, by the way that song is fire, I ain't gonna lie." Listen to his tone. Pay attention to academic's face. You can see him put two and two together. When the realization hits, he says, "They kind of chilled out a little bit, I wonder why." That offhand moment reads very different now, and you can bet prosecutors will replay it in court. Is it surprising? Maybe not, given suspicions that OTF and Von's associates wanted Quando dead. What shocked people was how directly Lil Durk might be involved. So how did Lil Durk get exposed? People say he was betrayed by someone close. Word is OTF Jam flipped. Reports claim OTF Jam wore a wire for years, allegedly 12, feeding law enforcement information on Lil Durk, OTF, and associates. Coincidentally, Jam was released from a 12-year stretch right after Quando and his cousin were attacked. Comment sections blew up. Many joked Lil Durk snitched on himself through his own lyrics. Bars about being on a mission in Cali and being stuck in traffic read now like clues. Some pointed out the irony. People mocked Lil Durk for not sliding for Von, and now those same people mock him for being arrested. Others argued, if OTF Jam really wore a wire for years, law enforcement might know far more about alleged crimes by Lil Durk and his crew than anyone expected. So who is OTF Jam, and why turn on his own? King Yella, another Chicago rapper, spilled that he'd heard OTF Jam implicated Lil Durk in the murder of LPAB. In his clip, King Yella claimed federal action came after someone in OTF started talking, that simply mentioning Lil Durk's name could trigger arrests. He said people in the streets were already whispering, if anybody in OTF says Durk's name, that's all it takes. Adding to the suspicion, when Jam came home from prison he dropped a track called Federal Freestyle, released bizarrely on Lil Durk's official channel. That raised red flags online. Fans joked, Jam turned your wire up, and speculated he'd been cooperating the moment he got out. Then Whack 100 told DJ Vlad that Jam had kept it real, that he served 12 years for attempted murder, got out in 2022, right around the time of LPAB's death, and allegedly began recording for authorities. All that build-up makes it look like the feds were quietly gathering evidence, piecing together a case, and waiting for the right moment to move. For Lil Durk it was years of momentum, an album queued up, a fresh slate on his record, the key to Chicago moment, but the past kept circling back. If the leaks and whispers are true, this isn't a story about one night. It's about a long game, informants, lyrics that double as confessions, and a legal machine that finally closed in. And like I said earlier, if they're coming, they're coming. King Yella then explained why this wasn't some random arrest. Somebody definitely snitched. Someone from OTF, or at least affiliated, clearly gave up information on Lil Durk and his crew. It's messed up, he said. I don't care how much money you got, what you got going on, these people will throw you under the bus. He went further, saying he believed Durk already knew this day was coming. That he felt it. That the signs were everywhere. How? Because everyone had been talking about the looming Rico. If everybody else knew, he said, don't you think it was in his head too? Mama Doug, the streets, everybody. That's the general consensus. Lil Durk got snitched on. But here's what most people don't realize. OTF Jam actually dropped a track right after getting out of prison. The title? Federal Freestyle. And no, that's not a joke. That's literally what it's called. The craziest part? It was released on Durk's official YouTube channel. If that isn't a red flag, what is? The internet went wild. One user commented, I jam, turn your wire up, this my SH feds. Another joked, this man came home wearing a wire and still made this track. NGL, that's nasty work. Since Jam had just been released from a 12-year sentence before that song dropped, many believe he was wired up the moment he walked free. Adding fuel to the fire, Whack 100 spoke to DJ Vlad about the situation. He said, he did 12 years, got out, did an interview, claimed he kept it real. They bought him cars, gave him $50,000, and he said there wasn't no smudge on his name, but eventually he flipped. DJ Vlad added that Jam served a 12-year sentence for attempted murder back in 2010, and was released in 2022, the same year LPAB's murder went down. Since then, it's been alleged he's been wearing a recording device to feed intel on Lil Durk and OTF straight to the authorities. From what we know, the FBI had been coordinating this move for a long time, quietly gathering every shred of evidence before making their strike. And even though it's too early to know the outcome, it's not looking good for Lil Durk. He was close to walking away from his life of crime, but the ghosts of 2020 have come back to haunt him. And what events kicked all of this off? The infamous beef, Quando Rondo versus King Von. Most people know the basics, but not many understand the real cause, and how it all ties back to NBA YoungBoy. According to one Reddit user, here's how it unfolded. Quando and Von were originally friends. There's even video footage of them hanging out backstage together. But things changed after Vaughn got out of jail. On Live, he said he liked YoungBoy's music. In fact, there are multiple lives showing Vaughn singing his songs. But something flipped behind the scenes. Suddenly, a new live appeared showing King Von dissing YoungBoy, calling his raps cap. Nobody knows for sure what caused the shift, but speculation says Vaughn reached out for a feature, and YoungBoy ignored him. The tension only escalated when Vaughn posted a picture with Jania, YoungBoy's baby mama. She insisted they were just working on a song, but the damage was already done. Hours later, YoungBoy fired back with a post captioned, "I'ma have my son your daughter since you trolling." Things didn't stop there. YoungBoy dropped a snippet featuring Asian Doll, who just happened to be Vaughn's ex. Vaughn clapped back on Twitter, firing off, "That new SH, y'all got is garbage. Try again. And I got dirt on your baby mama that'll make you not want to claim your kid." And from there, the feud spiraled, dragging Quando Rondo right into the storm. Savage remarks like, "That new SH, y'all dropped is garbage. Try again, MF. And I got some dirt on y'all baby moms that'll make you not want to claim your kids." Meanwhile, Quando Rondo got dragged into the mess when Vaughn clowned him over his first week album sales. From that point, their relationship was beyond repair. Especially since Vaughn openly said he was cool with many of NBA YoungBoy's rivals like Fredo Bang and Jada Youngin. The day before his death, Vaughn gave an interview with Academics, where he claimed there wasn't any real music beef, unless somebody ended up dead. Tragically, he didn't realize he'd be the one to fall. So why was Quando pulled into all this? Because NBA YoungBoy was like a mentor to him, just as Durk was a mentor to Vaughn. After Vaughn was killed, Quando Rondo faced massive backlash and heat, so he tried to clear things up in an interview with Angela Yee. The interview began with him explaining how he, Vaughn, and Durk were actually cool. "Let's back up," he said, "because I know you and Durk were cool. Obviously, he was on your album, y'all were cool, and you were also cool with Vaughn. So that night in the parking lot, what led to you even being there?" It's true, they even had a track together. After that, Quando began detailing what went down on the night Vaughn was killed. He insisted he wasn't chasing clout or exploiting names. At the end of the day, it's not about clout. "I got money. When people say I'm chasing clout, how? I'm already rich." He then broke down his version of events. At that point, no retaliation against him had officially happened, at least not that we know of. Quando tried to keep it respectful, refusing to say Durk's name outright, instead calling him Big Bro. From my understanding, it was love. "I had a relationship with Big Bro, don't want to say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. The dude on my album. It was all love, from my understanding." Angela Yee even noted how Quando had spoken positively about Durk in the past. He went further, saying Durk never once charged him for a feature. "Dude never charged me for a feature, none of that, even though he could've. I looked at him like Big Bro. He's a legend. That's how all the young rappers see him. I've been listening to him since I was 12. But there's no erasing what happened." Vaughn punched Quando, and Quando's crew retaliated. CCTV footage from that night shows Vaughn in a white shirt approaching Quando, who was leaning on a car. Vaughn began swinging punches, while Quando tried to slip away. Then his friend Lil Tim, Rayall named Timothy Leaks, pulled out a gun and started firing. In the same Angela Yee interview, Quando described the moment as an out-of-body experience. "I swear, man, it was like I wasn't even in my body. Next thing you know, boom bam, I got hit. I can't even explain it." Reportedly, Quando had been napping in the car, waiting for a friend. He got out for just a second, and that's when Vaughn confronted him. After the assault, Lil Tim jumped to defend his friend, and the shooting ended Vaughn's life. Immediately after, Tim was charged with murder. But in the end, he was cleared of all charges. That ruling infuriated Vaughn's associates. His ex-girlfriend even tweeted, "The police said Tim ain't kill him. The police did." But regardless of the legal verdict, Quando Rondo was marked as the villain. To this day, Vaughn's circle, especially Durk, have never forgiven him. Their bond went back years, and Durk and Vaughn had their own shared criminal history. In fact, back in 2019, both were arrested together for a shooting on February 5th. A man named Alexander Witherspoon was shot during a robbery in Atlanta. At the time, Both Vaughn and Durk were charged in the case. The shooting occurred outside a well-known restaurant called the Varsity. Prosecutors told the court that Witherspoon was shot, his Jeep was stolen, and he lost around $30,000 in cash. He survived, but suffered a gunshot wound to the leg. In court, prosecutors laid out the charges, starting with the victim's statement. He said his chain was snatched, $30,000 was stolen, and his vehicle was taken. They then added, video footage shows Mr. Banks, Durk with his arm out the window, firing shots toward the victim. The victim testified that his chain was snatched right off his neck, $30,000 in cash was stolen, and even his vehicle was taken. Prosecutors then stated there was video evidence showing Lil Durk pulling the trigger. You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window, firing multiple shots at the victim. But they managed to walk away because the defense argued you couldn't actually see Durk's face in the footage. Still, the case was huge. It involved two of the biggest rappers in the world. And since both were already heavily tied to Chicago gang activity, police feared that violence was spreading into Atlanta. They even flew in a Chicago police chief to testify in court. During the trial, both Vaughn and Durk were denied bail and hit with charges like aggravated assault, attempted murder, and gang activity. Although the shooting went down in February 2019, a warrant for Durk's arrest wasn't issued until May. He later turned himself in and even released a song about the case. Sadly, Vaughn was killed before the verdict was reached, but eventually, Durk was cleared of all charges. There was, however, another shooting that tied them together, though it happened after Vaughn had already died. The victim this time was FBG Duck, who had long-standing beef with both Vaughn and Durk, as well as Chicago's infamous O Block. In fact, just weeks before Durk's recent arrest, FBG Duck's mother filed a lawsuit accusing Vaughn and Durk of being responsible for her son's death on the Gold Coast. That killing happened in August 2020, not long after Vaughn was shot by Lul Tim, aka Timothy Leaks. FBG Duck was gunned down outside a Dolce & Gabbana store, dying at the scene. His girlfriend and another friend were also shot. Many believe Vaughn and Durk were behind it, especially since there were whispers of a bounty on Duck's head, eerily similar to the accusations against Durk now. The lawsuit doesn't just target Vaughn and Durk, but also their estates, businesses, and everything tied to their names. To understand why, you have to look at Chicago's gang wars. Duck was part of a crew called Tookaville, linked to the Gangster Disciples. For decades, the GDs have been locked in a deadly feud with the Black Disciples, the gang associated with O Block. This rivalry had been escalating right before both Duck and Vaughn were killed. The beginning of the end came when Vaughn and FBG Duck started trading diss tracks. Even though Vaughn was shot before Duck, he's accused of putting a bounty on Duck's head, the same way people claim Durk put a bounty on others. And let's not forget Vaughn's own criminal history. Back in 2011, when he was only 16, he went to jail for armed robbery. From there, his alleged life of crime only escalated, with some even accusing him of killing a young girl. One of the reasons Vaughn became so infamous was that he allegedly hinted at his murders in his lyrics, turning them into street legends. By the time he died, Vaughn was linked to multiple killings and had even been branded rap's first serial killer. Durk wasn't clean either. His rap sheet stretches back to when he was a teenager. Over the years, he's lost many close friends to the streets. Not long before his arrest, Durk went live with streamer Aiden Ross, where they talked about his past. Aiden Ross: Yo Durk, I'm reacting to the new song bro. It's fire. I gotta ask though, in the video, there's a bunch of mugshots. That's you. Lil Durk: Yeah, all of them. All my mugshots from the past. I've been to jail, but it ain't a good thing. Aiden Ross: How many times though bro? Like how many mugshots up there? Durk dodged specifics, but admitted he had plenty of run-ins with the law. Aiden praised the song and thanked him for dropping it, and Durk signed off with love. But the truth is clear, this wasn't Durk's first run-in with the law, though he was probably hoping it would be his last. Many of his Chicago peers have tried distancing themselves from gang life, and maybe Durk thought he'd finally escape too. But with the overwhelming evidence the feds claim to have, it's not looking good.